Carla Stefaniak was 35 years old and living in Hallandale Beach, Miami, Florida. Born in Venezuela, she had come to the United States with her family when she was 19. 4 years later, her family decided to return, but Carla chose to stay. She had built a life there, working at an insurance agency and making friends easily. She had no interest in leaving. Those who knew her described someone who approached life with optimism and energy. Her brother Mario remembered her as constantly active, always willing to try something new. As a child, she had been fearless, the kind of person who kept her parents on edge with her unpredictable adventures. Friends recalled her vibrant personality, the bold way she dressed, the way she spoke. She left an impression on everyone she met. Travel had become one of her great passions. She had driven through Iceland in an RV, skied in Switzerland, explored New York City, and spent weekends in Cuba, Spain, and the Caribbean. She documented each trip online, hoping eventually to turn this hobby into a full-time career. Her brother Carlos was married to a woman named April. Over time, Carla and April had grown extremely close. Carlos joked that his sister spent more time talking to his wife than he did. The two were inseparable. As Carla's 36th birthday approached, she and April planned a trip to Costa Rica. Carla put together a detailed itinerary, making sure nothing would be missed. They arrived on November 22, 2018, Thanksgiving Day. They had reservations at a few different hotels, and their final destination was an Airbnb in a gated complex in the mountains of Escazú, just 10 minutes from San José. The listing promised beautiful views, security guards, and a pool. The two spent their days exploring beaches, eating well, and staying active on social media. By November 25th, Carla posted a photo of herself by the pool. The trip had gone exactly as planned. April was scheduled to fly home a day earlier than Carla, which meant Carla would have one night alone at the Airbnb. Her birthday would be the next day, and her friends back in Florida were already making plans to take her out for dinner once she landed. At 11:30 in the morning on November 27th, Carla hugged April goodbye at the airport. An Uber driver who had brought them there offered to give Carla a city tour. She agreed and paid him in cash. She spent the afternoon sightseeing, sending photos to her family, and buying herself a new purse and some jewelry. The driver dropped her back at the Airbnb Villa La Mas, apartment 8. Around 6:30 in the evening, she started getting ready to go to a jazz cafe. But a massive tropical storm was moving in. By 8:00 that night, Carla was sitting alone in the villa. She completed her online check-in for her flight and arranged for the same Uber driver to pick her up the next morning at 8:30. She planned to do some shopping and get food before heading to the airport. The storm grew more violent. Branches slammed against the windows. Rain pounded the roof. Carla sent a message to her family WhatsApp group saying she wanted to go out but was exhausted. Then everything went dark. The power had gone out. She messaged the group again. "It's raining hard." Power went off. Super sketchy. The lights came back on briefly, but Carla was clearly unsettled. She sent another message to April. "Okay, it's back. Creepy AF." She tried to calm herself by thinking about the next day. She would be home soon. This was just not the final night in paradise she had imagined. Her phone battery was running low. She was also on FaceTime with a friend in New York. She told him she was thirsty. He suggested boiling water, but all she had was a skillet. Going outside in the storm was too dangerous. She told him she would ask one of the security guards for a bottle of water. Around 9:00, her phone died and the FaceTime call ended. The next morning was her birthday, but there was nothing from Carla. Her Facebook page stayed quiet. Every message sent to her on WhatsApp after 9:00 the previous night remained unread. With the storm and the power outage, maybe it wasn't that strange. She could just be rushing to pack now that the lights were back on. At 8:30 in the morning, the Uber driver arrived as planned. Carla did not show up. April called the villa and asked if Carla was there. A security guard told her Carla had already left just after 5:00 in the morning with her luggage. At 5:30 that afternoon, Carla's plane from Costa Rica landed at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Her friends were waiting to pick her up and take her straight out, but she never got off the plane. Her family called the Costa Rican authorities immediately. They were told to wait 48 hours. Carla was an adult. They needed to give it more time. Her family pushed back. The police finally agreed to send a patrol car to the villa. The Airbnb had been left very clean. Her belongings were gone. So clean, in fact, that new tourist had already checked in. This was troubling. If something had happened inside, evidence could now be contaminated. Police interviewed the cleaning team. They said nothing had been out of place, and the villa had been left tidy. Until the 48 hours passed, the police were reluctant to do more. Her family organized a massive group chat with about 60 people. Everyone was assigned a task. Some called the police repeatedly. Others contacted Airbnb. Some worked on social media, others reached out to reporters. They got in touch with the owner of the Airbnb. He said that after speaking with the security team, it appeared Carla had left around 5:00 in the morning. She had gotten into an Uber with her bags, but her Uber account showed no transaction that time. There were no security cameras on the property to verify anything. Her family said it didn't make sense. Her flight wasn't until 1:30 in the afternoon. She was only 30 minutes from the airport. There was no reason to leave that early, especially when she had already made arrangements with a driver she knew. The Uber driver confirmed he had only arrived at 8:30. He was nowhere near the complex at 5:00. His story checked out. Carla's phone had reconnected to the internet briefly at 5:17 in the morning, about 3 hours after the FaceTime call had ended. Phone data showed her device had not left the property. This was the last place she had been. Finally, Carla's face appeared in the local media. A missing person investigation was officially underway. 6 days after she was last heard from, police officers arrived at the villa with dogs. The place smelled of bleach and vinegar. It had been scrubbed. They found Carla's blood and semen on the bed and floor. If Carla was still alive, she had not left by choice. Local news soon became international. A GoFundMe was set up to help her family travel to Costa Rica. The hashtag Find Carla spread across social media. Thanks to the pressure from people back home, the U.S. Embassy began pushing the Costa Rican government. The FBI got involved. Things started moving. Carlos flew to Costa Rica and went straight to the Airbnb. He met with a security guard, but the man said he couldn't help. No one could give him answers. It had been over a week. Everyone back home was checking their phones constantly, refreshing their feeds. Then at noon in the San Antonio de Escazú neighborhood, sniffer dogs reacted to something in a wooded area. It was the decomposing body of a female. She was partially nude, half buried, and covered in plastic. This was about 300 meters from the complex where Carla had been staying. Although dental records still needed to be examined, the media were already reporting it. It seemed likely they had found Carla. Carlos said the moment he got the call, he knew. No confirmation was needed. He looked at the sky and cried. He could feel it was his sister. Nearby, they found her phone, passport, laptop, and suitcase. Her cause of death was a blow to the head. She had been stabbed many times. Her arms and neck were covered in wounds. Her jaw was dislocated. Her neck was broken. A forensic pathologist said the knife had gone into her back with such force that 2 of her vertebrae were broken. The damage to her body and the DNA under her fingernails told the story of a violent fight until her final breath. Her last moments had been in a remote location with no power during a storm so loud that any call for help would have been lost. It was a nightmare. Investigators indicated the motive appeared to be sexual, especially given the semen found at the Airbnb. It seemed Carla had died around 10:00, just a couple of hours after she had planned to get water from one of the security guards. Everyone in and around the apartment was interviewed repeatedly. The owners of the Airbnb were said to be cooperating fully. They spoke to one of the security guards who looked after apartment 8. He even lived in the building next door. He was covered in fresh scratches. His stories kept changing. 32-year-old Bismar Espinoza Martínez first said he saw Carla leaving in an Uber. Then he said he had been asleep and didn't know anything. The more they talked to him, the more tangled his answers became. The more they asked about the 5 asked about Levo's story, the clearer it became. Everyone had heard this from Bismar. No one else could back it up. Neither could her transactions. The autopsy showed she was dead long before 5-0. Bismar had full access to her villa, the other rentals, and the grounds surrounding them. This area would not have been accessible to the general public. This was where she had been found. Before long, officers placed the 32-year-old under arrest. His DNA was later found to match what was under her fingernails and everything in the villa. They also learned Bismar had called his wife after killing Carla and told her what he had done. Bismar was from Nicaragua and had been in the country since June, only a few months before this happened. He had what authorities described as an irregular immigration record, meaning he was not in the country with documented legal permission. Carlos said he couldn't believe he had stood there and shaken this man's hand, thanking him for helping them. Bismar had been so calm. Bismar was later charged with simple homicide, the equivalent of second-degree murder. There was apparently not enough evidence for first-degree murder. That charge would require proof of premeditation or other aggravating factors, something authorities couldn't establish for certain. As everything unfolded, Airbnb and the complex also came under scrutiny. They had not required any employee screening or background checks. There had been no questions about his criminal history. His defense team maintained his innocence right up until the trial, speaking of a botched investigation. Finally, in 2020, Bismar was in court. In Costa Rica, there is no jury. 3 judges were responsible for the trial, conviction, and sentencing. Although his charges were upgraded to first-degree murder after pressure from Carla's family, he was ultimately acquitted of that and instead found guilty of simple homicide. Prosecutors sought the maximum penalty allowed for simple homicide, which was up to 18 years. Carla's family argued for a much harsher sentence and additional charges such as robbery or attempted sexual assault. 3 judges sentenced Bismar to 16 years in prison. Carla's family launched a civil lawsuit against Airbnb and the Sila Lamas resort where the Airbnb operated. The suit stated they negligently failed to perform any kind of background check or otherwise take measures to determine whether Martinez was fit for the authority, power, and control provided to him. Their lawyer said he wasn't legally authorized to work, yet he was given his own apartment on the grounds, an apartment that was directly next door to Carla's rented villa. The harm caused by Martinez was a foreseeable and well-known hazard of the industry. Bismar's job came with free use of a hotel apartment and a pass key to every room in the complex. He was provided a uniform, giving him the appearance of authority. He was given unrestricted access to go anywhere he wanted within the premises, and he shouldn't have been there to begin with. Airbnb was accused of allowing landlords to operate outside the laws governing conventional hotels. The suit stated that while Airbnb posted complimentary and positive reviews of the resort property and its hosts, there were multiple reports since 2013 of guests who encountered bad experiences and recounted being victimized by personnel affiliated with the resort. Information that Airbnb sanitized from its own promotions and advertising material. The family also claimed Airbnb and the villa didn't warn guests about safety concerns from the U.S. State Department. One could argue whether that's the company's responsibility or the customers'. Their lawyer responded that a business owner cannot stick his head in the sand and pretend he doesn't know about a dangerous condition. Something Carla's family spoke about, which was also listed in the lawsuit, was the belief that multiple people were likely involved in disposing of Carla's body. Her friend Greg agreed and said it seemed unlikely that one person could have killed her, moved her, and cleaned up before the next security guard was due to take over. Who might have been involved is still not known. Bismar and Villa Lamas were ordered to pay the family just over $50,000 in civil damages. This was a Costa Rican court order, not part of the U.S. lawsuit against Airbnb. The lawsuit did not result in a detailed public verdict, and there is no public record of Airbnb admitting liability or of a detailed court award to the family. Instead, it appears Airbnb may have settled the claim privately. The listing was also removed from the platform. Carla's case continues to raise difficult questions about safety, responsibility, and investigations in countries that aren't familiar. In fact, her disappearance came just weeks after Costa Rica's tourism board launched a new campaign for tourist safety. For most travelers, nothing ever goes wrong until one night in one place. It all does. In the aftermath of Carla's death, attention turned not only to the man who killed her, but to the systems around him, the property, the security, and the platform that made this stay possible. Carla didn't go to Costa Rica chasing danger or taking risks. She was simply doing what she loved: traveling, exploring, marking another milestone. She should have been safe, and she should have returned home with memories to share and loudly ringing in the next year of her life, not as the subject of headlines and court records.